All right, guys, welcome back to the 90% Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Matthews. For those who are new, here at the 90% Podcast, we talk basketball, business, life, sports, and today we have a very special guest. We have Coach Steve Henderson from Holy Trinity Upper School. Coach Henderson has been a coach for over 20 years now. He's been the head coach here at Holy Trinity. He's going into his 19th season. Been a very successful coach. He's been somebody that I look up to on the basketball side, but also just a role model in life of being a leader and how he carries himself, his character traits. So I'm really excited for this episode. We'll get his perspective from he's our first high school head coach on here. So let's get this party started. How you doing today, Henderson?
Good, great. I appreciate you really having me out and look forward to talking with you today. Yes,
sir. So for those who don't know you, can you just give us like a 2-minute background on your life story?
Yep. So I was born and raised here in Melbourne. I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 12th at Ascension, where I really took on the love of basketball. From there, I went on to Melbourne Central Catholic, where I played for 3 years. My freshman year, unfortunately, I tore my ACL. So I had to sit my freshman year, which was a pretty big setback for me. But coming back from that, I was able to play for 3 years, 2 years, 1.5 years on JV, and then 2 years on varsity, where I had some really good coaches. I had Ron Johnson, who has won multiple state titles, not only in Florida, but also in North Carolina, some private schools, and he's coached at the college level. And then I had my senior year, I had Dagan Nelson, who was the coach at NYU in New York here, not recently. He's been coach all around the country. So I was blessed to have some really good high school coaches. And I think that's really kind of helped push me into the career I am. I don't think I really did not plan to get into coaching. Senior year, before leaving for college, I tore my ACL again. And that was kind of the setback and kind of knowing that I was going to have to go into surgery. So the playing days kind of ended on that one. And I got asked by the high school coach that was there at MCC, hey, do you mind coming out and helping with the JV team? So at that point, it was, these are a lot of guys that I played with. A lot of them were younger and were teammates. And I agreed. I agreed to come out and help. And it was kind of a thing that kind of kept me involved in the game a little bit. And we got to the first game of the season, and the JV coach never showed up. And so at 18, they kind of looked at me like, hey, what are you going to do?
Got thrown into the fire. Hey, sometimes that's the best way.
You're going to coach tonight's game. And really loved it. And they asked me right after that game, how do you feel about taking over the JV program? So I did. I loved it. I was already going to be home. I was still rehabbing and doing some things, so it kept me around the game, and I was able to do that for 2 years. So it was wonderful. My plan then went on to Florida State, where I was going to go to law school. I was a criminology major. And in criminology, the program, you had to do community service hours for a lot of your classes. So I ended up working at a school with underprivileged kids or kids that did not have a home life or didn't have parents. Every kid had a family member in prison. And that was up in Tally? Yeah, had a family member in prison. So what we would do is we'd go to the school at the end of the day and we'd work with homework. And then I ended up started training kids and playing basketball with them and doing sports. And that's kind of how I got my community service. Towards the end of getting ready to go to law school and do those things, I realized that that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be around kids. So I graduated, and the first thing I did was I moved back here and had the privilege to work with Rob Terry. So Rob Terry was the head coach at MCC at that time, and I asked him, hey, I do anything to work underneath you? So I was his JV coach for 3 years, an assistant. So I got that, and one day I got the phone call. Wasn't applying for jobs. I got the phone call from Holy Trinity, and they said, hey, if we offered you the job, would you take it? And, wow. And at that point, Holy Trinity for basketball was an unknown. They were born 21 the year before.
What year was this?
Ooh, man, you're going to hit me way back. I think it was 2004.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they hadn't had a lot of success, and they had a unique situation. We had played them that year, and they had 6 coaches, and I think 5 of them were parents. So they really didn't have a foundation of basketball, what it was going to take.
Yeah, so you were pretty much coming in and starting from scratch?
So it was a little nerve-wracking. Obviously, being younger, I'd coached, but to take over your own program and try to learn to do those things, you know, you got to create your own way. And there's a lot of bumps in the way. Sometimes you got to learn. So Rob Terry was a great mentor to me, and he jumped right on it. He's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to go over there and you got to build something for yourself. So,
I love that, especially that he had that attitude.
Yeah, and he's always been a big supporter, still is to this day, even though we were probably the biggest rivals in season. But, you know, it really was special. So ended up jumping over and coming over and really having to establish building a program from the ground up. So
sweet. And now you've been here ever since, right?
Yeah, so this will be season 19 at Holy Trinity. So it goes fast. I can tell you, when you hear 19 and you start looking around the county and realizing you're one of the longest tenure coaches in Brevard County, it doesn't seem like that, but it happens.
Yeah, no, but it's got to feel good, because I see from the outside looking in, I haven't been a high school coach, but I call them program jumpers. There's guys that change schools every year, or there's guys that just don't make it because part of it is mental, right?
Yep.
And that's what we like to talk about on this podcast. Yep. So let's dive into that a little bit. Obviously there's the X's and O's, right? But what mindset do you think it takes to be a good and high school varsity coach and lead a program the way you have?
You know, I set my standards. Basketball is kind of a gift to be able to help young men and young athletes not only set their goals for what you want them to accomplish on the court, but off. And my biggest thing was always teach them a work ethic. I always felt if you could teach somebody how to have a work ethic, no matter what they choose to do in life, they're going to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they're doctors, lawyers, you know, wherever they go in their profession, if they're willing to grind and they're willing to work, they're going to have success. So that was kind of our main, you know, X's and O's. Every coach, there's a lot of coaches that have great X's and O's. I wouldn't tell you I was the best X's and O coaches. My thing would be teaching them how to work on and off the court, setting high expectations, making sure they're not just successful in basketball, but they're successful in life.
Oh, yeah. No, we were just talking off camera about a player who's not ready to play, right? Because his academics aren't there. And that shows that you keep the standard where it needs to be, and they need to level up to it.
Yeah,
if they want to play.
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories of, you know, and it's hard, you know, you get kids and they're here for 4 years. You got them for 4 years, and 4 years goes by fast. You look at these kids and you watch them go from very young, immature to men. And my pride was always of, where are they after? Where did they end up? You know, it's not what they did here, but how did they end up after they played for you? And I always look at that as the biggest success. So, you know, when you build a program, you know, the work ethic was number one. The second would obviously be character. You know, surround yourself with high character kids, and it makes the job that much enjoyable. When you got low character, you know, kids or personalities or anything, you know, coaches, it doesn't matter. It makes the job more difficult.
Yeah. You're the average of the 5 people
right.
you spend the most time
you know,
with.
and you spend, you know, I spend just as much time with my team as I do my family.
Oh,
you know, it's hard. You balance it too. And I've been blessed that, you know, for being here 19 years, my kids go to school here. My son's in 9th and he's playing in the program now. So that's always enjoyable, but he grew up in diapers where my players were changing his diapers or my kids were helping him. So it's kind of unique to be able to be in one place and, like you said, stay there. And he's learned from watching those in front of him. And I think that's a big thing about our program, is that we try to set the standard that younger kids have people to look up to and understand what it takes, not only to be successful here, to be successful when you leave here. And I think that's special. The biggest blessing we have is we have alumni come back all the time. And it's just such a privilege to be able to hear them tell the younger guys what they did and how hard they worked and what it took and how it made life that much better for them.
Yeah, no, I love it. A lot of what you just said makes me think of Josh Porteous,
Absolutely.
Right? And he's a guy, I moved here from Miami my junior year of high school, and when I got here, I had no idea about the county and what the best schools were. Mm-hmm. My parents wanted to just get out of the craziness of Miami and get to Cocoa Beach, so that's where I went to high school. But if I had the option, right, I more than likely would have chosen to come here. And I remember Josh, I met him at the Cocoa Beach Rec Center, and he had already started doing like what you guys call your tigers, right? Which are your suicides before the season starts. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to do another set. We did them this morning, but I'm going to do 8, I think. And I was like, all right, I'll do them with you. And he's like, we do them back to back, 8 minutes, like 30 seconds on, 30-second rest. I was like, we're good, bro. If you do it, I'll do it. And I remember, I think after the second one, I was like, the rest doesn't increase. And he's like, no, this is what we do. And I kept going, but I wasn't making the time. And he made every single one, I think like 28 seconds. Yeah. And he had done it already that morning. And I was just like, holy cow. And then to tie this all in is he just graduated from law school. So instilling that work ethic isn't something that you're just saying, right? It's real. No. It's not fluff.
And you look at guys like that, and there's so many of them. The majority of them have such great stories. And I think as you get older, when you were 24, you probably didn't see it as much. But as you get older and you see their fathers now, I got players that bring their kids to the game. Guys that are working at Harris and Grumman and people that I know that constantly call me and say, you told me about this young man and why I should hire him and do this thing. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. He might not be the brightest of every employee I've ever hired. We got guys from Harvard that are here, but he's going to outwork everybody. Yeah. And to me, that just kind of instills that, that hard work ethic. If you have it and you build it in the sports, is just something. Basketball is great, but all sports, I think, have that gift to be able to teach young adolescents how to do it.
1,000%.
And it's those are the wins. Those are the ones that win. Great wins, you can forget about them year to year, and but when you see the kids that are getting to do it and they get to chase their dream or play in college or play in the pros, we've been blessed to have a little bit of everything. So it makes it special.
Oh yeah, no, and those are the wins that are not seen on paper, but mean more and last longer than the seasonal wins. So
absolutely,
that's big time. So what's your current goal?
Obviously, we're still. When I took this job, the first year I sat down with an athletic director. I don't want to mention the names, but he had actually was resigning. And I don't know why he wanted to meet with me. I'd already been hired, and he didn't hire me. There was going to be a new athletic director coming in. And, kind of was not the best conversation I ever had with an athletic director. He basically kind of told me, you can't win here. You're taking a job, and you can't win here. And, I'm young and naive. I told him we're going to win a state title. I promise you we'll win a state title. And we've been close. We've had 3 Final Fours, but the job's not done, and I guess that's
the goal.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah,
we eventually want to do that. It's one of our main goals, but consistently we make goals each year. Each team's different. It's hard because seasons change. Some years you think, hey, this should be the team to do it, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've seen that. I've seen like the years that I've looked around and the players you've had, I've been like, oh, they're getting a state title this year, and then the other years where it's more.
Everybody get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's what makes it fun, right?
Teams come together. I mean, that's one of the great things about coaching is, one, you got to learn personalities. And the biggest thing is you have to find a way for them to play for each other. You can coach all you want, but if they're not for each other and committed to each other and willing to work, it's probably not going to work out. And you can see that. Some years, you think they're together and it falls apart. It's a long season. I mean, not that they dislike each other, but they're not as locked in. You look at other years. I mean, we had a Final Four. Josh Porteous' senior year is a perfect example. We basically we went to the Final Four, and we had a team that I honestly, if you look back, we should have won it.
Was that was like Keone and those guys there?
Jason. I mean, we had all the components to win it, and we came up against a very, very tough Godby school, and sometimes it's matchups, and we couldn't get it done. I mean, they had a little more size, a little athleticism, but that was a team that if you put them in year after year, and if you would have put them in the last 5 years, they would have won it.
They probably would,
every year. So it's timing a little bit. But Josh's year was so special because we graduated 6 of our best scorers. I mean, all 6 of those guys went on to play in college. So the big thing that we heard around was, Josh was the only returning senior.
I remember
that. And, Josh is a great player, but, people would say everywhere we went, this was a rebuilding year. This was a rebuilding year. And that group they didn't buy into that. It just was our mentality. We hated hearing that. And, you look at it that year and you go, The team before made it to the Final Four. Well, Josh's senior year, we went to the state championship.
I was going to say, you guys made it to that final game, right?
Yeah.
Was it a close game?
Played Jacksonville Bulls, and Jacksonville Bulls beat Knox the night before at Tampa Catholic. I mean, he's going on to be a top round pick,
in the NBA now.
And, we watched Bulls, and Bulls, every guy Bulls had was over 6'7", and our starting center was 5'10". And, their leading scorer for UCF was their center, and he was averaging 28. And they were averaging 80 a game. And we kept
Holy cow.
We kept them to 41.
In that state game?
Yep. And we lost by 6. And we had the lead the whole game. And we went 6.5 minutes scoreless when they went in a 1-3-1. That was the end. I mean, we had the shots that didn't fall. I mean, those are the 6.5 minutes. I think anybody's career you'll remember forever. But when you look at that team and you look at what you achieve and overachieve, and we talk about mental toughness. I mean, I don't know if you can find a group that was as mentally tough as them to be locked into not listen to the noise outside of what everybody else thinks or should happen.
Yeah, no, and I love that because it doesn't matter what other people believe. It's what is your truth. And I have a quote that I like to spread, which is, we question every belief except the beliefs that we truly believe and those we never question at all.
Right.
And so a lot of people throw around, we're going to win a state title, this, that. They don't truly believe it, right? But if you can get a group to really believe it and not question and not listen to the outside noise, that's when you have a special group.
Special things happen when that happens. And there's a lot of those. I mean, 19 years, there's a lot of, you look at every season. And when you say, what's this season's goal? I think the goals are the same for 19 years. But what is this team going to be capable of doing? Last year, we had a very young, talented team. And we were sitting in a position I don't think we've ever been. We were 500 at Christmas. And
that you're saying that's the least amount of games you've won?
No, that's the worst record we've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, it just we were losing games. We were losing games. Teams beat us, but there was a lot of games that we just threw away. And they bought in, and we rattled off 13 straight wins in a row, and ran through the county and finished the schedule off without losing in county. And, they gained confidence. We've unfortunately played one of our worst games in regionals and we were out, but that's kind of how every year it goes. It just, you never know. And you just plan each week to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know you're big on preparation, right? Yeah. So can you give whoever's listening, or let's just talk about, what do you guys do to prepare for the season? Like, not every high school basketball team is practicing from the day they have tryouts till their first game and throughout the season. But what do you guys do in the off season and leading up to before tryouts?
So there's really never an off season. If you ask my wife, she'll tell you it never ends. We cut it up into phases. Like right now, today's first day of school. We're already into preseason training. So we're 5 days a week. We go 3 days a week we have a strength and conditioning coach that they'll lift 3 days a week and do speed work as well with that. And then 2 days a week, we right now are in skill development. So it's individual skill development. And we offer that. We don't do it in teams. So any kid in the school from 7th grade to 12th can come out. There's no charge. We work with them.
Just get in the gym and work.
Get in, and we do individual skills to try to help prepare everybody for the season. And we'll do that probably for about 6 weeks, and then we go kind of into our mental part where, we're conditioning. And a lot of that is mental. And it's kind of like you said about Josh, it's a program that's set up that you have to be consistent. You have to show up, or you're not going to have
success. Get left behind pretty much, right? Because you guys build that up where the first week you're doing a couple.
It's called the Tennessee 20. I got it from them. You work your way up to 20 suicides in 20 seconds. So early in the week, your first run, you'll be at 33 seconds. So you got to make it in 33 seconds. So if you start with 7, you're sprinting and you got to get across the line 33 seconds, and you have to stand and wait 27 seconds before the next one goes, and you'll work your way up. And then on the following day or day after, it'll be 31 seconds. So the time drops, and each week you increase the number of how many you're running. So it's important that you show up. If you show up on a Monday and then you don't show up to the following Monday, even though it only one suicide, you are not going to make it. And each one you miss, you make up. And then there's a team portion into it as well. If, you cheat and miss a line, everybody runs. If you miss you lean on the wall or you do something that just mental stuff that try to keep them ready. And I think that these are things when I try to explain to people with coaching, majority of mistakes are made. The big mistakes are made in the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And they're mental mistakes because guys are tired.
You're
right?
fatigued. Right.
Yeah.
And it happens to everybody. When you make the most mistakes is when you're not locked in. And I've always looked at the conditioning portion as the tougher teams at the end of the game. We beat a lot of teams that were much better than us. We take pride in we're not going to get tired in those games. So we're not going to make those mistakes as where other teams are thinking, how are they still running? And I like to, I don't use a lot of timeouts. And I tell them, I don't want to be calling timeout to give them a break. I want them to feel what we've worked.
I love that. Yeah.
If we need a timeout, we need it. But most games, if you look, I'll have all 5 going into the fourth, and I'll only use them if it's, one, we got to get a quick hit or we need something special. But I like to keep it where, hey, we're planning our season mentally to be able to run and make the long run.
Yeah.
So, and we practice that way. That's the key. Just doesn't stop in conditioning. We run 90-minute practices.
No, I can vouch for that because I've been around the county. I'm a trainer, right? So I try to go around and learn and get nuggets from different coaches, and not to bash other coaches, right? Everybody has their way of doing things, but there is a lot of practices that I see that are standstill practices where it's the coach show, right? And he wants to show how much he knows, and there's times for that, right? I think there's times to break down the X's and O's, but ultimately movement is key in the end, and getting used to the speed and the conditioning level that it takes to play at a high level. And when you say that, it makes me think of UConn's coach Gino has a quote that I've heard viral where he says the difference between good basketball players and great basketball players is when the good player gets tired, the great player kicks their ass. Right. And so that is huge. And this also all ties in with life, which is what I love, because you said when you're not locked in is when the mistakes happen. And I see the same thing now that I'm getting older with life, where like if you're just not conscious and you don't have goals and you're not going after something or aware of what you're after, being locked in, that's when you're just going to take what comes to you. And a lot of times what comes to you isn't what you want.
Nope. And then you usually got to figure it out. Yeah. And that a lot of things that we try to do, like I said, that's the big thing, is instilling it, how you're going to handle it in life. And like you get older and you lose sports, I mean, you're not always as locked in as you were when you might be then, but it's key to make sure that you're staying on task and
absolutely
doing what you need to do. And I feel like our guys are big on that. They don't love it, right? And if you asked anybody, and there was 200 of our former players in here, what do you hate most? They're going to tell you the Tigers, right? It's just, they don't love it. I mean, it happens at 5:30 in the morning, and you got to be mentally ready. I mean, I don't love the mornings, but we have 3-4 volleyball teams, and that's the opportunity we can get in to get in the gym.
And what I love about that, and what I'm thinking of, is I recently became a dad, like we were talking about off camera, and there's days where I don't feel like doing stuff, and before I was a dad, if I didn't feel like doing something, I had the luxury of not doing it. Now, it doesn't matter how I feel, right? So it's about, I committed to doing this, and it's going to get done. There's going to be days where I feel good. There's going to be days where I feel average. There's going to be days where I feel bad, but that doesn't, I keep them separate, how I feel and the actions that get done. And so if we can instill that in kids at a young age, they're going to be great workers, great dads, great leaders. And so that's huge.
Yeah. And, the good part is we don't have a large group. There's not 80, 90 kids in the gym like they have in some public schools.
Yeah.
I mean, we may only have 9 kids on our whole roster. We may only have 9 kids in preseason workouts. When you don't have that number, they're accountable for each other, right? So it's big. If you don't show up, you're going to hear about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or you decide to skip.
It's a smaller school, too.
They're on each other about it because they know that every piece matters, right? Like, I don't care if you play no minutes or you're the starting guard. Like, we're going to treat everyone's getting that same agenda, same training, everything, and same accountability. So, you know, we got guys that dream of playing in the pros. We got guys that dream of playing college. We have guys on our team that say, look, I'm here to play high school basketball, and I'm going to enjoy it for being part of a team, and I'm going to work as hard as I can. And nobody has a different agenda of how we treat them all. So that's kind of cool. I mean, to be able to get to know each guy personally, and they get to know each other that way as well.
No, and I think that's tough to do. So, like, let's give me your thoughts on if let's say there's star players, right? Most people cater to star players, and it's not a thing where you have to, but I think it's becoming more and more of a expectation from the player and the parent. So, and I see coaches that say they don't, but what do you think? What's your thoughts on it?
It's actually been, I'm glad you actually asked that question. It's been my biggest struggle. If you were to ask me what is your biggest struggle in the last 19 years?
That was one of the questions, yeah. So
that one I struggle with. When you ask me how long can I keep going, I can go forever if it's the right kids. But I am seeing that there has been a shift, and kids want to be told what they want to be heard. And we're seeing a lot of that in sports. And some of it is because of transfer. You can transfer and you can do whatever you want. You can leave and you can go and you can do this, right? Like when I went to school, if you lived in Satellite Beach, you went to Satellite.
Yeah.
You lived in O'Galley, you went to O'Galley. There wasn't this you could travel from Palm Bay to play at Cocoa because they got the best football program. You couldn't do those things. So, the options were you bought into your community, you bought into your programs, you bought into your school, and that's who you played for, right? Now that's shifted, right? So when kids don't like something and they don't hear what they want to hear, and somebody else is over in the ear telling them, yeah, well, you're not being utilized right, or you're a D1 player. And these are things kids want to hear, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're mentally, if you're telling them things that you can't promise or that might not be true, they're probably going to fall short. And to me, that's the biggest loss for a kid. When you say your best players, I've always been harder on them. And they're going to hear it more than the most because their expectations are probably higher. And when you have high expectations, and you know where you want to go, it's not acceptable. They got to know that the standard is higher. And where you're trying to go, nobody's going to do that. Colleges, I think they're struggling with it. D1 coaches that I talk to now that are friends that have been coaching at that level, they say they don't go out on the road anymore as much. And when you ask, well, why? There's this transfer portal, but understand that you have 11 to 12 guys back at your school that somebody else is recruiting them. So I can't leave my school because
oh my gosh, yeah. I haven't even thought of that. Yeah. You got to be
and
worried about your own guys.
It happens all the time. They go to get that kid in the transfer portal and they turn around and, somebody picked their kid off right out from underneath them. Yeah. So everybody wants to be told positive things. And I'm not saying don't, but it's gotten to a point in now that we're feeding these kids something that may not be a reality. And when you're feeding somebody that, it never works. It doesn't help their work ethic, right? It doesn't help. And I struggle with kids in 8th and 9th grade getting offers, right? Does an 8th or 9th grader really know what that offer means? In their mind, they think, man, UConn just offered me. They're going to give me a scholarship, right? That's where they're thinking, I'm good enough to play at UConn.
Yeah, I'm set.
Today.
Yeah.
Right? But you're 14. Right. And UConn's looking at it kind of like a mailing list, right?
UConn's looking at it like sales.
UConn doesn't have a clue who's going to be the coach in 4 years, right? Or who's going to be the recruiting. Those assistants probably aren't even going to be there. They see it as now. So you see this all on social media, kids posting everywhere. And it's great for them. I'm glad that kids get recognized for their hard work. But the big thing to sell to them is that job's far from over. So there's got to be people in their ears saying, look, that's a projection. We got 4 years to make sure that you stay in that projection. If we don't and you think you've arrived or your work ethic slides, or it usually struggles.
Yeah.
I think I went on a long rant on that, but it's been a struggle. Kids, if you look around everywhere in the county, kids transfer. We've had a ton of transfers this year. We probably had more transfers out this year than I've had in the other 18 years combined. You know, we've never had kids transfer out. So it is a change of pace.
And do you think that, what do you think causes that? Like, I know we talk about just them being catered to, but
you know, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of them all want to play at the next level, and there's nothing wrong with that dream, and everybody should have that dream. But then there's also the people run from competition, where that always contradicts itself, right? Like, if you're elite, it doesn't matter where you play. If you're the best of the best, it doesn't matter what school you're going to go to. You really can't hide from that. You know, others is, you know, I'm tough. I'm not going to lie to you, right? Like, I feel as it's my obligation to be honest with you. I feel it's my obligation to work with you, and you know that doesn't always work with everybody, and that doesn't always work in a business system either, right? Like, you know, my boss can come in and say, "Hey, you need to do this, and this better," and I got to make the decision: am I going to adapt and give her what she's demanding, which is what happens, or am I going to run? Everybody has that option, so there's some of that going on, and with the ability to leave and go other places, you know, kids have that option, and sometimes, you know what, it's not the best fit. There's times.
Yeah, no, sometimes it makes sense to transfer. And that's why I don't hate on everybody doing it. I transferred from my freshman to my sophomore year because I had a really good relationship with the coach at the new school I was going to. And then I transferred again my sophomore to my junior year, but that was because I moved 4 hours north. But when I did move and I was looking at schools up here, I pretty much didn't look until it was too late. I was already enrolled in school and everything, but my mindset, because I didn't know what to expect up here, right? And Miami basketball is very competitive. I got cut my freshman year because at the tryouts there was 250 kids, and I went to a school with 6,000 players. And if you didn't know the coach before the tryout, you probably didn't have a shot at making the team. And that was something that I wasn't aware of. And that's what I tell parents and players now, is that it's not like you're not, I don't know what you want to call that, but you want to try to develop a relationship with coaches when you're in 7th and 8th grade. At least get them to know who you are, ask them what you should be working on, that sort of thing. But I don't know, where were we going with that?
Yeah, I just kind of touched on that. That's one of the luxuries we have here is, and when you say do workouts, I told you it's offered 7th through 12th. You know, I want a 7th grader to feel just as much a part of this program as a senior that's been here for 6 years, right? Like, got to develop it, you know, and like you said, we were talking about transfers, and sometimes it's the best thing for a kid, right? We've had great transfers come out here, and we've had kids that have left here and had great success somewhere else. And you really, there's no hard feelings. You know, my big thing is that hopefully you're making the decision for the right decisions and not to run from something or not wanting to work, because that just, to me, that's where you struggle.
And I want to say something on that real quick. This is something that I've recently experienced on the business side, right? And I heard this from somebody, but it's that, because I think I talk to a ton of parents, and I think a lot of them resent their previous coach or trainer and don't have the appreciation they should, because they're not looking at it in the right way. And so, like, with me, I've spent over $50,000 in the last 7 years on business mentorship, right? Because I'm always just looking to learn and grow, and how do I build a team and make more money and all of this stuff. And each business mentor that I've hired, the first one I hired helped me make a little bit of money. Then I hired the second one, and it made me question why the first one didn't teach me what the second one was teaching, that has helped me make more money. And I think the same thing happens with coaches and trainers, where, like, I've seen players that we've worked out for 4 years. They've gotten a lot better, and they're on the verge of a breakthrough. And maybe they started at level 1, we got them to level 8, and they wanted to be at level 10. And then they go work out with another trainer, or they transfer schools to another coach. And then they have that breakthrough, and they associate their breakthrough with the current situation, and they discredit or don't appreciate the person that helped them get from level 1 to 8. And so I think that's tough. A mental thing. Mental toughness as far as coaches go, is just understanding that our job isn't necessarily always to get them to the finish line. I think it's, if we get them closer, we did our part.
And that's a big one. I mean, one of the big things I always, and like you said, having mentors and people around you, and everybody should be trying to grow. You know, every day is an opportunity for me to get better at something, right?
Oh, yeah.
And challenge yourself, whether it's business or not. And one of the big things I always tried to stay away from, and kids ask me all the time, why don't you coach me in AAU? Why don't you coach me in travel ball?
Uh-huh.
And some of the best things I think kids need to do is they need to play for different people.
Yep.
Right? Like, way I may teach you to do something may not be what your coach wants you to do against their team, because it may not work we play help side defense, but we don't have a 7-foot shot blocker, right? So you get to college, you're not going to be playing help side defense as much as we do, because there's going to be a big
and guys can shoot a lot more and stuff like that.
They're going to be playing off. You got to learn to adapt, and that is something that you need to be able to do in sports, training. Everything you're doing is to build up to that. And I agree with you. You get, and I'm sure in your business it's frustrating too, because you've seen the bottom, you get them to close to the top, and then all of a sudden you're disregarded for how hard you put in and work, and that's always going to happen. I think that's part of life. But the big thing is
no, and if you're doing things for the right reason, it doesn't matter.
The big thing is to get the kids where they need to go.
Exactly.
If I can't get you there, I hope that you get there without.
Bingo.
It's not we got some great kids, and got kids that are left that I still have some of the solidest relationships with, that, call on the birthday, call on Father's Day. There's kids that haven't played for me that couldn't get into the school that I still have some of the best relationships with, just because they trained or they came around or they weren't in the program.
Or your summer camps, right? I actually just
had
had a call with a parent today that's about to get started in our program, and they did another summer camp in this area that there was 200 kids at, and they didn't like, and they came to your camp, and there was, I think you have 60 kids, and they mentioned on the phone call today that they love your program, right? And that they didn't go through your entire high school basketball program, but just your summer camp, right? And so that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of it, and try to provide as much as you can. You could always do those, and I think we talk camps a ton, and keeping that individual relationship and building with kids, and you're always going to get more out of them, And I think I remember when you were starting the training years ago, and you look where it is today compared to what it is now, and you were trying to find gyms just to get. Now you got your own gym, and it just continues to grow. But that's part of that work ethic, and everything you put into it, and you see the rewards. And I'm sure you can say it too. Like, yeah, it's great to have the financial side, but sure, for you, being able to see these kids succeed in high school, in college, is even that's a bigger reward for your program as well as it is.
1,000%, yeah. And the financial side is cool, but what I tell other trainers, because a lot of trainers look to me and to us and ask for advice on the financial side, right? Maybe a soccer trainer, a football trainer, different things like that. And I tell them, yes, you have to focus on the business model, and you got to make money so you can provide for yourself and your family and grow and be able to pay more trainers and help more kids. But ultimately, the money is a KPI, a key performance indicator to how much impact you're having. Yeah. If you're impacting a lot of kids and impacting the community, your finances will go up. Yeah. If you're not, you're probably going to struggle. And what I tell people is focus on the first one, which is impact 1,000 kids. Then if you're not making money, then we'll talk about your business model. And
you're probably going to be enjoying life a lot more.
Yeah.
The more impact and you get to see, and it's part of it. These kids are like my own kids, right? And that's just part of the family that they know. Doesn't matter how long it is, they can pick up the phone and make a phone call. And I think that's one of the greatest joys of coaching. And I feel the same way about them. And I feel like if I picked up the phone and called one right now and said, hey, I need this, or I need this help, or I know that the phone would ring and they would get right back to me, and it would be, so that's kind of cool that you get to develop that. I don't think getting into this career compared to going to law school, I don't think you would have had the same effect.
Yep. No, I actually went to college for one semester, and it was okay, but it wasn't for me, and I knew it wasn't for me just because it's not for everybody. And I think the world is shifting a little bit, and I'm not hating on college. I think there's a ton of benefits. I think the number one benefit that gets overlooked is the network that you can build. If you just kept a spreadsheet of everybody you met in college and got their name, email, and phone number, you meet thousands of people throughout your time there. I think just some people aren't focused on that at the time.
Yeah, so. Absolutely.
But hey, so we do this thing on the podcast where we go rapid fire questions.
All right.
So we're just going to do 5 quick questions, and we'll see how you answer. All right. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Best piece of advice I ever gotten.
Or best piece of advice you can give, whichever comes first.
Never quit.
Never quit. I love it. Something not a lot of people know about you.
On my off time, I enjoy, playing golf, going fishing.
Okay.
Those are things that I truly enjoy and find as really good hobbies that I'm quite good at. So I enjoy doing those.
I might have to get some golf lessons from you.
go.
I suck at golf. I've only been a few times these last couple months, and my swing needs some work. If you could switch lives with another human, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Tough one.
And you don't got to switch your whole life, but let's just say if you could experience somebody else's life for a day, one day.
I'd probably definitely would enjoy being a college coach and just be able to see for a day the impact if the impact's the same that you get to make in high school.
Sweet.
And just to see.
Is that a goal of yours to eventually?
I think eventually with young kids, it's obviously hard. I've had buddies that have done it, and the sacrifices they make.
The time commitment from what I hear
and stuff like that is not something that ever, when I got married and had kids, that's a commitment. And I want to make sure that they get everything they get from me and not being on the road 7 days a week. But it'd be nice to see if the impact's still the same.
Absolutely. I want to touch on your kids when we finish these rapid fire. So if you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be working with kids. I don't know what it would be. Teaching maybe. Teaching or, I'm a dean of students here.
So you think it'd be something involved?
Yeah, definitely be
giving
involved with kids. Even being in the dean aspect, I mean, it's a tough job because you're usually dealing with the negative side and trying to help young men and women realize that, you made a mistake and there's consequences. But I'm the type of person that don't judge you. Tomorrow, let's figure out how we can fix it and how to be better and move forward. So you get to make a different impact. And I think not all deans get to do that or have that approach to the job. So I get to establish and have some really good relationships, even in some really bad situations that I have to deal with.
No, for sure. And you probably get to see transformations.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
The biggest transformation happens when somebody's in the trenches or down in the weeds and you build them up and get them out of there.
Yeah.
All right. This one is a little silly, but we're going to ask it anyways. If we set up a one-on-one tournament with all of the high school basketball coaches in Brevard County, who would win? Would you win or would somebody else win?
Man, I've had 3 ACL surgeries. I'm not about to have a 4th.
So you wouldn't even play?
I can shoot it.
Okay.
I'm not moving very quick. I'm staying on the ground. If you give me shots you got a chance. If we're gonna go shoot, I feel confident.
Is there another coach out there that you know of that can hoop?
No, T. Shannon can still play.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm going up. I see him.
I tell people all the time, they want to bet me that they're going to beat him. And
no,
it's
I
not
see
going to we could put a blindfold on him and he's still going to win.
He's still dunking and he's doing that. I'm like, I don't know if I got any of that. So he's a tough one. Colin Kearns is another. I mean, he's got the height and the size. There's a lot of guys out there that still play. I know Snoop's down at Palm Bay.
Yep.
I see him play still. I'm getting to the point where I'll be happy coaching them. I'm not out there running around with them anymore.
Well, it's coming soon, guys. One-on-one coaches tournament. Sweet. All right, let's go back to your kids. So I recently became a parent. I just had my daughter 2 months ago, and it's been a fun 2 months. Like we were talking about, we've just had some health issues and been in hospitals and long nights and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's been that's me talking about the negatives. The positive is and most nights she's great and just it's the best feeling in the world. But what's your approach towards parenting, or do you have any advice for me or any parents out there? It's
the biggest gift. You really can't beat it, and it goes fast. You talk about 19 years of coaching, and now I have a junior and a freshman, and you're starting to talk about things that going away to college or where you're going to do next and all the things that, you asked me if I can change the diaper still. I can still, swaddle a baby and know exactly what I'm doing. It
feels like yesterday.
It went that quick and, enjoy it. Enjoy the bad days. That would be my biggest thing because even the bad days are special, and you're not going to get that time is going to keep ticking. So
I love that.
Everybody talks about the terrible twos. I'm like, I have a niece now, and we go out to dinner, and poor mom and dad are running around trying to chase a kid at dinner, and you know what? And I'm the first one to be like, I got this. I'm okay with this. Like, let me get up and do this because, you got a 17-year-old. That goes fast, and just enjoy it. I mean, it's a special time. There's gonna be days where you're gonna go, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's all part of it, and it makes it that much more special.
I love it, and that's mindset 101. What you just said is enjoy the bad days, because I think especially in today's society, a lot of people have false expectations that everything is supposed to be fulfilling or happy or feel good, and it's just not life. You're gonna have 33% of your days that feel good. Some are gonna feel average, and some are gonna feel bad. And I think if you can have the mindset and the perspective to, first of all, know that some of your days are gonna be bad, and be able to embrace the struggle, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I always look at some of the worst things that I thought were the worst case scenarios in my life were the biggest learning things. You go back to tearing your ACL as a freshman and not playing sports. I never had that. But that really taught me grit.
Yep.
And you got to figure it out. Your team's gone, right? You don't have a team anymore. You have you, right? You got you and a trainer, and not part of it anymore. You got to figure out how to grind, and struggling in school is another one. I always look at kids that work real hard and they get that C, and then, and they're working so hard, and they deserve the A, but they're just not. They haven't got over the hump. Those are usually the kids that they figure it all out. They learn how to grind and do that, and some of the hard days are what really make who you are, right? And make you special. So I always appreciate those, even though you don't want them. They long run, you figure it out.
Yeah. And what I tell people is that it's, to me at least, I look at it as like,
definitely want them to be
they will be, exactly. So that's gonna be
here, and your bad days here, your average days here, your good days here. As you get better, your good days get better, and your bad days aren't as bad as they used to be, right? So, let me ask you, like on the coaching side,
we don't have a ton of it. We just kind of, we got workouts. We go day by day. If he came to me, he gets to make those decisions. And that's kind of the way I look at it. They both get to make their own life and their own path and decisions, and what they ask me for is what I will provide and try to help them get.
I love it.
So.
Does she want to play college sports or no? No. Uh-huh.
No, I can't thank you enough. Obviously, I know you guys take your time to come up here, and just for all youth out there, just continue to grind. Continue to grind. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do.
Oh, yeah.
Chase your dreams, and
the coach doesn't show up.
And put the time in for it. Good things are going to come.
Yeah.
I just want to be. Trying to find.
Gonna have to learn daddy ball.
I have to learn how to have a happy balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you definitely want them to be successful when they don't live in your home. If not, they move back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's gonna be
yeah. And does he want to play at college or no? Take it day by day. Yep. Sweet. I love it. All right, that's a good note for us to wrap this up on. Coach Henderson, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it was the first day of school today. I know you're busy. You guys are in the weight room right now, but thank you so much. This is it. I always learn from you, right? And just the energy is contagious of being here at Holy Trinity and being in your presence. So we really appreciate it. Is there any final words you have either for me or any of the listeners or viewers? Let's get it. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today's episode. What was this episode, Zach? 17 of the 90% podcast. Stay tuned. We're going to keep them coming. Follow us on all the social platforms, Fast Phenom Training, 90% podcast on Instagram, YouTube at Fast Phenom Training. We have more special guests lined up in these coming weeks. And then we'll also be doing a few solo episodes where I'll just be giving some perspective. If there's anything you guys want to hear about specifically or anything that you're currently struggling with or your goals that we can maybe help touch on, just let us know. We're open to feedback, but we really appreciate everybody who's tuned in so far. We wouldn't keep doing it if we weren't getting feedback. So it means a lot, and we're out. Thank you.